There is something happening inside your brain right now that was engineered without your consent. And the people who built it knew exactly what they were doing. This is not an accident. It is not a side effect. It is the product. Every app on your phone was engineered using the same psychological mechanisms that power casino slot machines. And the payout is your attention. But before you can understand what they built, you need to understand what they found. The average person now spends over 6 hours a day consuming digital content. More time than they spend sleeping. More time than they spend with their family. And when they finally put the phone down, they feel worse, more anxious, more inadequate, more alone every single time. To understand how this system was built, you have to go back to the moment when Silicon Valley stopped making tools and started making traps. In the early days, the goal was simple: build something useful, something people want to come back to. But somewhere in that process, a more powerful question replaced the original one. Not how do we make something useful, but how do we make something impossible to stop using? And to answer that question, the engineers did not call a designer. They called a neuroscientist. The dopamine reward system is the oldest motivational circuit in the human brain. It evolved to reinforce behaviors that kept our ancestors alive: food, water, social connection, sex. But the brain cannot distinguish between a reward that genuinely serves you and a reward that was synthetically manufactured to keep you engaged. The attention engineers discovered that if you could trigger dopamine release consistently enough, you could create a behavioral loop that the user could not consciously override. And the model they borrowed to do it was one of the most psychologically sophisticated addiction machines ever built. B.F. Skinner discovered in the 1950s that the most powerful way to create compulsive behavior is not to reward every action. It is to reward actions unpredictably, sometimes randomly, just enough to keep trying. The vending machine is satisfying and forgettable. The slot machine is psychologically impossible to walk away from. And your social media feed was designed to be the slot machine. Pull to refresh is the lever. The feed is the spinning reel. Sometimes you get something meaningful. Sometimes you get something funny. Sometimes nothing. But you cannot stop pulling because the next one might be the jackpot. Every single pull was engineered. Every delay was calculated. The loading spinner exists not because the content is loading slowly, but because the anticipation of reward is neurologically more powerful than the reward itself. But the variable reward mechanism was only the beginning, because once you have someone's attention, the next question is, what do you do with it? Inside every major social media company, there is a team with a job title that should alarm you. They are called attention engineers, and their only metric of success is time on platform. Mia found internal documents and whistleblower testimony revealing exactly how deliberate this engineering is. Nothing about these platforms is accidental. Notification icons are red, not because red is pretty, because red is the color the human brain evolved to treat as an emergency signal. Blood, fire, danger. The brain cannot ignore red. The engineers knew this. Every red notification is a synthetic emergency signal firing directly into your evolutionary alarm system. You are not checking your phone because you want to. You are checking because your brain was told there's a threat. The notification is not designed to inform you. It is designed to interrupt you, to break whatever state of focus or rest you are in and redirect your attention back to the platform. Studies show that after a digital interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes for the brain to return to the same level of deep focus it had before. Every notification resets the clock, but the notification system is just the entry point, because once you are inside the platform, the real psychological operation begins. What you see on social media is not reality. It is a highlight reel. The top 1% of moments from the top 1% of lives, heavily filtered, strategically staged, and algorithmically selected to maximize your engagement. The comparison trap works by artificially raising your baseline expectations. You are not comparing your life to average lives. You are comparing it to a curated fantasy, and losing every time. A 2018 University of Pennsylvania study found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day led to significant reductions in loneliness and depression within 3 weeks. The correlation between usage and psychological damage was direct and measurable. The people who look happiest on Instagram are statistically among the most miserable in real life, because a performance of happiness for an audience is one of the most reliable signs that happiness itself is absent. The audience only sees the performance. The algorithm only shows your performance. And your brain, evolved to assess social status through comparison, treats the performance as reality. Jackie spent time observing social behavior in public spaces, and what he noted was consistent across every location. People were physically together and psychologically alone, documenting everything for an audience that was doing the same thing. The attention economy does not just steal your time. It colonizes your present moment. It makes you a content producer, even when you are trying to be a human being. But there is one more layer to this investigation, and it is the one that goes beyond individual psychology into something much larger. Everything you do on a social media platform is recorded. Every pause, every scroll, every like, every search, every moment of hesitation, before a click, all of it. Over time, these data points do not just build a profile of your behavior. They build a profile of your psychology, your fears, your insecurities, your desires, your political beliefs, your emotional triggers. In 2018, it was revealed that the data of approximately 50 million Facebook users had been harvested without consent by a political consulting firm called Cambridge Analytica. This is not a political story. This is a psychology story. Because what Cambridge Analytica proved was not that politicians are dishonest. It is that with enough behavioral data, human decision-making can be predicted and manipulated with extraordinary precision. Using the Facebook data, analysts built psychological profiles of millions of individual voters. Then they fed each profile highly targeted emotional content specifically designed to trigger that person's specific fears and insecurities. The content was not mass propaganda. It was individually personalized psychological manipulation at a scale that had never existed before in human history. And the reason it worked was not because humans are stupid. It is because the human brain was never designed to operate in an environment where every piece of content it encounters was engineered specifically for it. The algorithm does not care about truth. It does not care about accuracy. It does not care about your well-being. It cares about one thing only: engagement. And the data is unambiguous. Outrage drives engagement. Fear drives sharing. Tribal conflict drives comments. The more emotionally extreme a piece of content is, the more the algorithm amplifies it. A landmark MIT study found that false news spread 6 times faster on social media than true news. Not because people prefer lies, but because lies are specifically engineered to trigger high emotional arousal. And high emotional arousal drives sharing. The algorithm does not boost the most accurate content. It boosts the most emotionally activating content. And the people who understand this engineer their content specifically for maximum emotional activation. This is why your social media feed feels like the world is constantly on fire. It is not because the world is worse than it used to be. It is because you are consuming a feed that was algorithmically optimized to show you only the most alarming version of reality available. The world in your feed and the world outside your window are not the same world. And your brain, spending 6 hours a day inside the feed, is losing the ability to tell the difference. You are being shown a distorted reality engineered for maximum emotional activation, and then asked to make decisions about your life, your relationships, and your understanding of the world based on that distortion. Here is what the attention economy does not want you to understand. You can win this, but winning requires something the system was specifically designed to prevent you from doing. Seeing it clearly. The slot machine only works if you pull the lever. And you pull the lever because you do not know you are standing at a slot machine. Now you do. The practical interventions are not complicated. Turn off all notifications. Move apps off your home screen. Set screen time limits. Switch your phone display to grayscale. It removes the visual reward signals that make the interface compelling. Every minute of your attention has a dollar value. The platform knows exactly what it is. The question is whether you do. The goal is not to leave the internet. The goal is to stop letting a corporation trade your psychological peace for their advertising revenue without your informed consent. The attention economy is real. The engineering is documented. The psychological damage is measurable, but it only operates on the parts of you that do not know it exists. You are not the product anymore, unless you choose to be. Subscribe. A new investigation drops every Tuesday, and the next one reveals a psychological mechanism that the most powerful people in the world have been using for 500 years.